Avi will join Jeremy.
Yeah, Avi's not going to join.
Yeah, we invited
Yeah,
Avi.
he didn't pitch it very well either, to be honest.
It's all right.
It's kind of a short notice thing as well, but whatever. We'll see.
David Grush was in the audience on the last APEC, I believe someone said.
Ooh, that's wild.
That's pretty cool. So we're here with Frank Kimbler, who is the guy who's gone out to the crash site and recovered pieces of the Roswell debris. Me and Mark went out there a couple last summer with at the Tesla Tech conference when we were in Albuquerque. It's a what was it, a 4.5 hour drive out to Corona, New Mexico, where the actual crash site is off Highway B12.
From Roswell, it's well, if you drive like a maniac, you can get there 2.5. So probably 3 hours to get out there.
So they've discovered that's actually where the final resting place of this craft was. Apparently, there's a skip site. It bounced a couple times before it actually, settled on Mac Brazel's ranch out there in Corona.
Yeah. This site right here is it is affectionately called the debris field. It is it's the original crash site. This is also called the skip zone. The other location, which is where the escape pod, if you want to call it that, and that's currently under investigation. That one is on private. This is BLM. That's on private land, and that's on what was called the old Martin Ranch, and that's currently under investigation to essentially see if we can find some material out there as well. But a majority of everything that has ever been found is from the area that's located directly behind me.
Nice. And where that's an undisclosed location, or is that on the maps anywhere?
Oh no, this is easy to find. In fact, this is the site that if you were happen to go out on the internet and just type in Roswell crash site, this will come up, and it's easy. You won't find the second crash site on any map because it's kind of undisclosed. And the people that are working on it, Don Schmidt, myself, and a host of others that are doing the research on that final resting place is what it's called. That location is kind of it's a secret. Other than the fact that it's on the old Martin Ranch, it is private property. This one is not a secret, and it is it's the site that Mac Brazel found the large pieces on. This is where it happened. This is where the military was on their hands and knees, and back in July of 1947, picking up these little fragments and carting them off.
Yeah, of what was just a weather balloon, right?
Yeah. I love that story. Yeah, I don't believe the weather balloon story, not one iota, not with the number of people that have
so
that's not without the number of people. By the folks you're looking at here, it's Don Schmidt, a very good friend of mine, and Ben Hansen from Factor Fake. They are awesome, and they were talking about that site. So
this guy's from Factor Fake. He said he has a background in CSI, crime scene investigation.
He does. He's a good guy. He really is.
Yeah, so he's gone out there too. What's his name?
His name is Ben Hansen.
Ben Hansen, that's right. Yeah. I'm going to post this video in the chat so people can go and check that out too after the stream. It's this is News Nation. They're the ones who also covered the Grush story, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, so they've been covering a lot of this stuff. That's good. It needs a platform to get out to more people, and it's not.
Yeah,
it's
they
not,
wouldn't. Kind of interesting thing. News Nation and wouldn't and Debrief. None of those folks have ever contacted me. I tried. I guess they're not interested in actually having pieces of alien, what could be. Pieces of an alien spacecraft.
Well, that's good. If they know they're not the ones capable of handling that thing, and they shouldn't be. So it's much better that you sent it to us so that we can check it out and see.
Well, yeah, that was that was the whole idea behind this. The piece that I sent Mark is untested. It hasn't been sent off to a laboratory. I wanted him to run it through his equipment to see if he came up with something unusual. And then we can also, at the same time, run some SEM, scanning electron microscope stuff on it. And we can do that. And, we're either, it's, here's what I have found out there. I have found there's probably 30 or 40 samples that have come from the location. Some of it is distributed and hidden away in various places safely. And some of it's been analyzed. Some of it I know. So I know what it is, but here's what's been found. So alloys come in different, aluminum alloys come in different configurations. And those configurations are, there's 1000 series, which is aluminum foil. I found that stuff out there, but it's usually heavily corroded. There's 3000 series and 5000 series, which is the sides and tops of aluminum cans. I have found some of that out there. And then there's some weird stuff. The weird stuff I'm hoping is what you guys have. There's some 6000 series that should not be out there, which is pretty weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's common. I found a lot of that shredded aluminum stuff, and what it looked to me like Clifford Mahooty had a couple pieces of that in 2009 when I met him out in Tesla Tech. And what it looked like to me is that someone took a bunch of old radiators and like threw them in a shredder, a metal shredder, and they sprinkled the pieces all over the site to try to just throw people off, just to spread so much crap out there that if you tried to go on an expedition, you'd have to sift through all the junk to find, the needle in the haystack.
This has been a long road because up on the let me see, I'll point to it. Oh, over this way. Grab out my pen right here, but right over. Oh, my pen's not going to show it. Right back up. Get my finger. It's a blue green screen. I hate it, but right here, right in that spot, right back there, right above my finger, along the base of that hill. Somebody went out there and they literally destroyed the ability of anybody to do any metal detecting out there. They took a box of several boxes of nails and scattered them all over the side of the hill and all over the base. And that is an old, tried and true method to really screw up metal detectors for people that are looking for things.
Yeah, iron nails is cheap, and they have a big hit on metal detectors.
Prospectors do that all the time. If you get into an area where there's a lot of gold nuggets, if they don't want you to find the gold nuggets, they'll throw the pieces out there, and they know where the pieces are, and so they'll just go and pick them up and do their detecting. So,
is it possible to just pick them up with a magnet, though?
You can, but there's so many of them, it is not even funny. Now, the interesting thing about this is that, and I don't know whether you guys have read about or listened to any of the stuff that I've been on, but directly to my, which would be that direction. Oops, got to get it right. Opposite back that way. Gotta hate green screen stuff. So going back this way, there's a little white area out there where I found 3 military buttons. They're also made out of aluminum. They are dated basically about mid 40s, early 40s, maybe to early 50s, and those were found buried about 3-4 inches deep in hard packed caliche, really deep. And then the other materials that I have, I'm not saying that, like I already said, there was some 1000 series, which is trash. There's some 3000 series, which is trash, and 5000 series, which is trash, which is why this has been such a long, hard road. The stuff that is buried deep is very much corroded. It's all twisted up. It's melted. It's been through an explosion, which I can prove. And the stuff that's laying on the surface, and you are absolutely correct, there's stuff on the top of the ground out there that more than likely is contamination. Somebody threw it out there just to screw up the works. I've run across that, and I'm not going to deny that. That stuff is out there. I've seen it. I've analyzed it. But there's
I've heard it. I have too. I've seen a couple pieces of some stuff from out there too. So it's a shame.
Glass and metal. Yeah, we just left it there. We didn't think it was anything.
Oh, you know what? Everything I find, I pick it up.
Avi Loeb went and they did a magnetic sled. You heard about? They dragged the dredge. They trawled it across the ocean floor out in the 6-mile stretch. Where they tracked that interstellar meteorite down to. And they picked up some of these space balls from the bottom of the ocean floor. And apparently now the Papua New Guinea government is, saying that he took them without their permission, didn't get the proper, licensing and all this stuff. They want to claim to the fame, if this is real alien technology. It's Hollywood couldn't write a better script.
No,
Avi was invited to this live stream, by the way, and he didn't refuse, but he just didn't show up.
Hey, he was on. I just saw it. He showed up on my thing. He was on Brian Keaton yesterday.
Frank was telling us some stuff though. Before
yeah. Sorry.
Oh, an acquaintance of mine has contacted Avi for his to see if he would be interested in the possibility of analyzing material that I've got. I don't know whether he's gotten a response back. That I haven't gotten any emails from him yet in reference to that, but that would be interesting if he wanted to do it. He has a big budget. It would cost them nothing to take some of this stuff and run it through all their test equipment, since they have National Science Foundation funding, probably in the millions, for his Galileo project, I think is what it's called. That's not a cheapie. They've got money to run out and scour the world for artifacts of possible extraterrestrial origin. They could run 20 or they could run all of my specimens and tell me whether it's trash in the desert or whether some of it's extraterrestrial. Now, it wouldn't cost them. It would be a drop in a bucket for them.
Actually, Frank, there's a company up here in Massachusetts that's starting up. What was the name of it? Valis. I worked at the company that spun that one out, and their whole thing is sorting metal scrap using computer vision and XRF. So they may be able to just sample, test everything you got.
Well, one of the first tests that we had done, it was done just a few days after that. A good friend of mine, that his website is UFO Nut. He does a lot of
Chuck
UFO
Zukowski.
Chuck Zukowski.
I know.
Yeah, Chuck Zukowski is a good guy. Matter of fact, he's listening to this right now, and Chuck Zukowski and I have, he's watching. And I said I'd mention his name.
Yeah, I knew Rick. I met him through Rick Nelson out in Colorado.
Yeah. So anyway, Chuck and I found, I bet in the last month and a half or so, we probably found maybe a dozen pieces out there. He sent it off. Chuck sent off some of the first, and he's on right now. He sent off, did some analytical work, and it came back as being very, very similar to what's called a 6070 alloy. And I can tell you guys right now that a 6070 alloy is a no-go. That is not trash. That material is used for building aircraft carriers and bridges, and it should not be in, you can get it in plate form, but it should not be in folded foil. It should not be in foil form. And that's what Chuck's test. And when I had some tests done at Theta Plate up in Albuquerque, it essentially came out with the same configuration. It was a 6000 series alloy. I've run across that material before 10 years ago out there, tried to tell people that the 6000 series alloys were not supposed to be out there, but nobody'd listen to me. They never do. But yes, we've got something. In my honest opinion, I think we've got some weird stuff mixed in with some other stuff out there. And it's the weird stuff that I want Mark to look at.
And,
one thing we have to be careful with XRF as a technology is it has pre-programmed spectra for each of the existing known alloys. And if it's not a known alloy, it'll just choose the spectra that looks closest.
That's close.
So
well,
it may not be a standard alloy if it's for real. It would probably be something off from the standard alloys.
And you're right. And
the other
it's
thing
off.
Sometimes
for a control, we should run some aluminum radiator material through it just as a test.
Oh, you can do that.
I mean, that's not really necessary with the SEM, but we can run it. The other thing is with the 6000 series, it's not usually done, but you can make wrought metal with it. You can press it into sheets it's not advisable. I would wonder why that would be. The other thing, it could just be machining scrap as well. If someone was tossing all those other things out there to confuse people, it's possible
If it was machining scrap, I would know, because we have a bucket of machining scrap over here. And actually, I have not opened it. I'm waiting for the opportunity where Frank will explain what it was he packaged up in here, so we could see if the
okay, yeah. I mean, why not jump into that? Actually, I'm curious to see what we got.
Actually, it's one of the pieces that was, believe it or not, it was most of the grass is gone out there right now, and it's very easy to detect into areas I've never been in before. And this stuff was really close to the surface. In fact, Chuck was I think Chuck was out there when I found it. But it's one of the longer, bigger pieces. It's also one of the harder pieces that I have. It's a bitch to bend. It wasn't one that was buried really deep, so it is relatively shiny, which is kind of unusual considering what it looks like. So it'll be long and narrow and relatively tough. So he's going to open it up and see if it's in the package. It better be.
Okay, here it goes. So now there's a little yellow package in there.
That's right, with my marks on it.
And there's tape on it too.
Gee, I wonder why I did that.
Let me see. How can we open this again? It's a bubble package.
Y'all don't laugh at this, man. I've had stuff disappear. So, and that is the inner one, and that's it.
That's the sample.
That is exactly what I sent.
Okay,
that's awesome.
So it made it here.
Oh wow, that does look quite interesting.
Very cool.
Does look pretty old, yeah, and it's folded over on itself too.
Interesting.
Now, if you guys give me a moment, I'm gonna go grab. I have a little USB microscope. We'll get a microscope view on it. Okay, just give me a moment. Continue the chit chat.
There you go.
Yeah. So, what do you think about titanium aluminides? Because apparently, Avi tested some of these things or something. I heard something about titanium aluminides, and also titanium aluminides came up in the Battelle study that was done for Wright-Patterson in 1949, like right after Roswell. And apparently, titanium aluminides have quasicrystals form in them as well. So,
well, I have not run across.
Titanium aluminide will be for aerospace applications.
It would, and I have not run across any titanium in this material as yet. However, I did. There's a couple of weird things in there. One of them is tungsten. It's not a very high peak, but tungsten showed up in there. It shouldn't be there, and it showed up in a sample that I had, as well as the sample that Chuck Sokowski had that he ran. So tungsten peak showed up, and we both ended up with short peaks of barium. There is a remote possibility that the barium might be a marker for the first nuclear test. There might have been some fallout that got trapped in the folded over part of it. So there's a possibility, although none of these samples are radioactive, there is a possibility that there might be some barium isotopes left over from that. If so, then that's a good marker for the date because it was buried. And it might be there, and it's in the fallout path for the first nuclear test. So it's a possibility. I don't know. It's all speculation on my part.
Is it okay if we etch a small piece to get an image of the microstructure?
Absolutely. This piece is for you guys to mess around with. Cut it up. Save me a little piece just in case it happens to come back being really weird. Of course, I kept a little piece myself on that, but it is there for you guys to do experiments on. It's there to look at. This is the surface is etched heavy, so you can see that. Chances are, if this is some of the material that you're also going to see, there's stress fractures in it. Those are there, and also there's liable to be some carbon scoring on this if it's the same kind of material that I've been finding out there.
Interesting.
Just to give people reference, this is the threads on my finger. To show you how big of an area that was. Oh, I can't even get it.
Okay. You know, I can. Yeah, you can kind of see it.
Yeah, it's pretty zoomed in. We're probably at like 100x now.
All right. We'll see.
Like
what
I
we get.
said, gentlemen, I don't care what you do with it. Test the absolute hell out of it and tell me whether it what you got. That's all I care about.
Well, yeah, thank you
that.
so much for sending us some of this to have a look at, and keep up the good work out there. And if you find anything else interesting, send it our way, or we'd be happy to analyze it and then give a full lab report back with the whatever equipment we'll go as far as we think we need to.
That's an interesting
interesting
little
stuff.
Yeah, there's something
right
interesting there. It looks like a little flake or something like that.
Yeah, huh?
Surface contaminants are sometimes weird,
Yeah.
so it's hard to say for sure.
They show up. When I had some of the first SEM work done on this, there was a lot of sodium and potassium that showed up, and that was just stuff from the environment. I had some other work done on it where they actually did it right. They mounted it and polished it, and then they ran the SEM. Yeah, polished the surface of it, which is the best way to do that because you get a lot of weird stuff from that surface oxidation. That's the very first piece that came back that started this quest, in that it had some anomalous magnesium isotope ratios, but it was right at the edge of the margin of error. So it was one of those things that was questionable, not definitive. And then I took a second larger piece of that and sent it off, and that's the piece that ended up going to ASU. And that's the one that disappeared in FedEx. They were going to do some secondary ion mass spec on it. And that one, it showed up. The FedEx package got to the lab. The scientist in charge called me up on the phone, said, "Frank, where's the sample?" And I says, "It's in the plastic container that's packaged up just like I sent it to Mark." And although it was a much smaller piece, and she says there was nothing inside the plastic container, and the plastic container was all sealed up, and it completely and totally disappeared. I had it witnessed from my house, photographed, everything gone, just disappeared.
Yikes!
Right. So
maybe that one was real, and they were extra dimensional or something. They just picked it right out.
Yeah, wouldn't that be pretty crazy? Just have it tune in and disappear. That's the end of it right there. That would be pretty wild.
That's pretty wild.
That's a true story. That one's out on the internet. You can go out and read about that one. Look up my name and say, "Oh, sample disappears in FedEx." It caused quite the ruckus out there, and that was quite a few years ago that happened.
I don't know about ion mass spec. I'll have to ask around about here, but we can get SEM with EBS.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. Isotope ratios will be interesting to look at, though. Well, I'll ask around.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. You guys got a big piece, so there's a lot of things you can do with it. So all I can say is on that, have fun, run whatever test you want to run on it, and I will be absolutely delighted at whatever you get back. It's all part of science. I don't accept defeat easily, but I also, being a scientist, what was it? Edison said he just found 100 ways that a light bulb didn't work, or 1,000 ways that a light bulb wasn't supposed to work, or whatever. So it's the same thing here. I'm going to keep hacking at it because I live here in Roswell, and we'll keep doing research on it.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks, Frank.
It's very interesting that actually we're looking at aluminum and magnesium samples, because what we're doing here with dynamic nuclear orientation actually works best on aluminum and magnesium. So that's because aluminum and magnesium are one of the groups that retain dynamic nuclear orientation for the longest at room temperature. So we're able to orient the spins and retain it there, and then pulse it in using other ferrous materials that are layered on top of it, which is why we're usually seeing these like layered materials or combinations of metals. It's because one metal acts as like a spring to the other metal. They interact with each other when they're going through their electron paramagnetic resonance spectra. Basically, the outer electrons orient the core, and then the core of the ferrous material orients the aluminum, and then you pulse it in order to build up that orientation in the entire sample.
Here's hoping we get something out of that. Anyway, yeah. I mean, this is awesome. It's a good opportunity to take a look at this sort of stuff, and the sample's in good hands. We've I don't know, previously, I mean, I think I was anonymous at the time, but previously Jeremy and I looked at some Carbonado diamonds from Brazil and Brazil and Central Africa. And some of these Carbonado diamonds are alluvial. They're found in sedimentary rock, not associated with any particular kimberlite pipe. So these sorts of deposits were presumed to have happened about 2 billion years ago, which interestingly is right before the Great Oxygenation Event. And that's I don't know, it's a running hypothesis I've got here that maybe it could have been part of an old terraforming probe. And if that were true, we should see some sign of genetic engineering in blue-green algae, potentially. So, but the actual Carbonado diamonds, it's at the end of the day, interesting but somewhat anecdotal. We found acicular grains of what appeared to be titanium, as if it was introduced in powder to strengthen the diamond structure and to remove as a nitrogen getter, because when you're sintering diamonds, you don't want any nitrogen present because that will prefer the formation of graphite over diamond. So you typically, to sinter diamonds, you have a chlorine atmosphere or iodine or bromine atmosphere. But
interesting. So basically, the gist of these carbonados, though, is that they're unlikely that they were formed naturally in the environment that they're found in, because they're only found in 2 places in the world, right? Like, and it's like, if we were to expect to find remnants of an ancient, battle like a Star Wars from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I mean, some of that debris from that last fight, made its way out here and may have crashed on Earth here. So it's not unlikely that there's alien debris out there floating around.
It's possible, yeah. The interesting stuff is that the two main areas that have this. There are other kimberlite pipes around, but this is uphill from them. It's sedimentary rock, and it's actually older than the date of formation of some of those kimberlite pipes. So
this is a real hypothesis that scientists and geologists are considering for the origin of these Carbonado diamonds. If you look it up,
exactly. Although I imagine it would be considered a little bit strange to assume it was a terraform. Well, let's say it's a hypothesis. It could be a terraforming probe. And then,
if I was an alien, I'd put my ship out a diamond.
We got to look at blue-green algae eventually. But yeah, the microstructure of these Carbonados is quite fascinating. You would expect, if they were from a supernova or something, that the metal droplets during the formation of these things, they would be more spherical. You wouldn't have acicular grains, probably, and most likely. And the other thing is, you probably wouldn't have separate metallic elements. There's some mixed things too, I suppose, but you've got a variety of different metallic particles. You'd expect it to be a little more homogeneous, maybe. But anyway,
did they run? Did that group that did that work? Did they run carbon isotopes on that? The reason why I'm asking that is I've done a lot of research on diamonds. I used to own some diamond prospects up in Colorado, so I know quite a bit about the diamond industry.
Nice.
So over in Australia, and I think they found the same thing in California as well. They found quite a few diamonds with a high carbon content, even some of the carbonados. But what came about from that, they were looking to see where the carbon came from. And when they ran the carbon isotope ratios, they found out that the carbon actually came from deep sea sediments, and they were essentially, the carbon came from the fossil remains of diatoms and other organic debris that got subducted and then came back up through volcanism.
Well, that's fascinating.
It's just
The
one of the
evidence-
that's just
Go
one
ahead.
of the ideas that was out there for the source of carbon in some of the diamonds that have been found on Earth, that it actually came from deep sea sediments, recycled plate tectonics.
That's a fascinating hypothesis. In this case, I believe there's been one. There may have been one study or two on the isotope ratios in carbonados, and they found isotope ratios that don't really match anything on Earth. I think they weren't specifically testing for carbon isotopes. I believe they were testing for argon or krypton or something. I forget specifically which isotopes, but
Cool.
yeah, generally speaking, these carbonados don't match isotope ratios found on Earth. So that's why the extraterrestrial hypothesis comes in.
Oh, that's what I would go for. Absolutely.
Yeah. Having it be artificial, though, that's a harder thing to prove. Even with acicular grains of nitrogen-getting elements separately dispersed into the diamond powder prior to sintering, it appears to be that. But I mean, it looks like it's been optimized and engineered for toughness, but I mean, getting any proof on that being actually artificial, that'll have to be genetic testing on blue-green algae at some point. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I encourage anyone, if they can get an authentic Brazilian or Central African. Central Africa is tricky because there are a lot of Carbonado diamonds that come out of their the normal mines as well, that are they get sold as Carbonado. So it's easier to find Brazilian Carbonados from this particular impact event, and even then, it's not so easy. Yeah, but
So they might have just formed naturally on a meteorite, like a diamond meteorite that was in
it's
space.
possible. It's possible. I know there has been one meteorite with a very high content of diamonds. They were
find the whole planet.
nanodiamonds, though. The thing is, that meteorite was largely nanodiamonds, whereas these are microdiamond. They're about 30 microns in size, 5 to 30 microns, which is optimal for, again, mechanical strength of the diamond composite.
They found quite a few. They found quite a few diamonds in the Great Meteor Crater over in Arizona.
Those are impact
quite a few of those.
Though.
Yeah, small
Those
ones. Absolutely.
Yeah, so some of them are embedded in the iron because iron, it has some solubility for carbon at high temperatures. So when these meteorites originally formed, the iron dissolved some carbon and then it precipitated out potentially as diamonds. If not, it probably more likely graphite, but occasionally you'll have a diamond just because it nucleates properly for it. And those are typically nanodiamonds. Then you'll have organic material that was just blasted so hard during the meteor impact that it forms into usually lawn stalite, but it can probably form diamond too. I don't see why not. There's impact diamonds on Earth that are made during actually, I believe in Russia they have a thing where they electrostatically charge graphite, and then they basically put it in an explosion. So it goes from a conducting state to an insulating state, and it retains this internal charge. And it's really useful because those particles, due to their internal charge, have a relatively large zeta potential. So they are good surfactant, and they're good drug delivery mechanism for you. Just attach some medicine to these, and you just eat the nanodiamonds, and the nanodiamonds are definitely going to be inert in the human body. They're not going to chemically react with anything, at least. And then those go through the body, they get excreted, and in the process they drop off the medicine. But in any case, these nanodiamonds and stuff, you can make them all sorts of different ways. But what we have here in these carbonados are microdiamonds, which would have had to be formed. They look sintered. There are other ways to form that. You could have the supernova hypothesis is the other leading hypothesis, where you had droplets of liquid carbon that literally just cooled off and crystallized in a supernova event. And that's the other leading hypothesis, which is also a pretty extreme case to have to resort to as a scientific hypothesis to explain these things. But yeah, it's fascinating. And I'm hoping that this aluminum sample will be just as strange, hopefully. We'll see.
I'm hoping it's going to be strange too. So, but we shall
I hope
see
we're
what
going to
comes
see
up.
weight loss. That's what I'm hoping for. And for those who are asking about its size, I just measured it with the caliper. It's 18 millimeters long and 8 millimeters wide, but it's pretty irregular, so it's not really a rectangle. Also, it's folded in on itself, so if we ever were to get in there with tweezers or something to unfold it, it might be a little bit bigger than that.
Cool stuff.
I also noticed while we were doing the microscope view, there might be some sand, which is silica, attached to it, from the elements. So the 6070, thing that they gave you may have been including the sand. So it might be something completely different.
Actually, what happened on that was that the lab that Chuck Sikowski took it to, they realized that was a problem because they ran a test that ended up with anomalous amounts of silicon, and they said, this thing needs to be cleaned. So they took that same sample and they cleaned it and ran it a couple of more times. And after that, it was fine, and they got the 6000 series alloys out of it. But before that, the silicon was unbelievably high, and it was in fact contamination from the soil. So that was a good lab. They knew what they were doing. They ran some tests first, and then they cleaned it, and they knew what was going on, and they got us an answer back on that.
That's good. That's one thing then that might be there might still be some contamination on the surface we have to consider in that case. So we'll see if it still ends up being a 6000 series. But yeah.
Groovis Muff asks if any similar material found around there.
Minerals. Aluminum doesn't form as a mineral on Earth.
No, aluminum is not found naturally in its pure form.
Does he mean the silica? Like everything is silica everywhere. Like sand is like, I don't know.
Most of the.
Yeah, I got news for you. If you blow your nose and analyze it, it's going to have silicon in it. I'm sorry. The stuff is everywhere.
Yeah.
How do you think if you wear glasses? I wear glasses. I just don't have them on right now. But all those little micro scratches all across the surface, it's all coming from silica. So the stuff is just everywhere. It just blows. And it's the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good song.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna run it through the EPR machine. The machine is out for some maintenance right now. I'm gonna throw in another. We got another isolator. I think I'm overheating my the amplifier because we're getting too much reflected power. So we're gonna try to clean that up a bit before our next run. And I'll throw your sample. And I haven't managed to weigh it yet, but I would imagine it weighs about 0.5 gram just from holding it.
You might want to run at lower powers, even if that's controllable.
Yeah, it is controllable. I can run it at lower powers, but we do want to get some.
That'll reduce the heating.
Yeah, and also the tuning is important because you really want all that energy going into the chamber.
Because remember, if you have a resonant chamber, you might be putting in like 1 or 2 watts or whatever, but the power bouncing around in the chamber can be 10, 20, 30 watts. It can be very appreciable.
No, it can't be more, but it can. The Q factor can make it act like it was more, but not if it gets absorbed.
Well, right. So if you pump in 1 watt, then the power in the container will increase until you have 1 watt of dissipation.
Exactly.
But the total energy in that box will be larger than the 1 watt going in, or one
Right.
joule.
Like the voltage and the E cross B field of a regular 1 watt can be much higher, but it needs the 1 watt to dissipate. Yes.
Which honestly is better for engineering applications if you can get something working with lower power even. But anyway, yeah, that'll be good. That should help your overheating problem with that system too, if you reduce the power output. Anyway,
but I have heard from a dynamic nuclear polarization expert, guy who worked for Brucker. He said that actually, to get dynamic nuclear polarization done correctly, you do need a lot more power than NMR or EPR.
Interesting.
EPR, the EPR spectrometer that I have over here, that one on the table, that thing runs at less than 1 watt of RF.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
That works fine for getting you a spectra. But of course, at that level, you're not getting spectra of everything. Metals are a lot harder to work with.
Well, the other thing though is if you're running at like 20, 30 watts or stuff, then heating your sample is going to start producing some noise in the signals you're trying to read.
We haven't had heated samples as of yet. The only samples we had that heated up were the powdered ones. Solid metals never warmed up.
Yeah, they have a larger loss coefficient or loss tangent when you excite them with RF, because they have a very large internal barrier layer capacitance, and then the voltage builds up between the individual powder particles, and they zap each other with some electricity between them.
Yeah, you remember when we had a magnesium sample that caught fire?
Yeah,
that was exciting.
Yeah.
It was magnesium powder inside of it's inside of an epoxy.
That's right. An explosion waiting to happen.
Yeah.
That's why they stopped building World War II aircraft early on out of magnesium. It doesn't work good when it gets hit.
Oh yeah, especially when traveling.
Nobel created the Nobel Prize because he wanted to be remembered for the prize and not for creating dynamite and explosives.
I have a couple pairs of binoculars that are made out of magnesium. The high-end Nikons are really nice for that. But not a lot of things are made out of magnesium for that very purpose. Yeah. Actually, there's this guy in Florida who has a YouTube channel where he burnt magnesium. He found out that like a certain part of an old Dodge truck radiator or whatever was made out of magnesium. So he went to the junkyard and bought one, and he burnt it in his backyard to demonstrate, how hot it burns. And it was like crazy hot. Magnesium fires, by the way, metal fires like that are the hardest fires to put out. You need a special fire extinguisher. This yellow one over here, this is the kind of fire extinguisher you need for dealing with burning metals. And talking about burning metals, look what just came in.
What?
This came in from Zaporizhia, Ukraine, right near that power plant that's under attack. So this basically came from a war zone. This is a block of lithium. Now, lithium is, I think it's the fourth element, and it is extremely light. It's covered in wax so that it doesn't corrode. This is like a 50-gram piece of,
that'll do more than corrode, Mark. If as soon as you take that out, that's liable to spontaneously combust on you, and it won't take long. Be careful of it.
Potassium's worse in that regard, but
lithium's not that bad, but we do plan on running some experiments with it, so long as we figure out the safety first part. Probably going to cut off a small sample in an inert gas chamber and cover it with epoxy. I think that's the plan, to make ourselves a little sample.
Potassium forms superoxides, so you have an oxidizer next to a reducing thing, in close proximity, and then you rub it and then it catches fire. Yeah.
Lithium
Magnesium actually, it burns much more readily than lithium once it hits its ignition temperature. If you can go blind if you look at a magnesium flame. It produces a lot of ultraviolet. You can get sunburned from it.
Yeah, that's true. That's why we have this fire extinguisher over here. But I think lithium needs more than just air in order to combust. It needs like if you pour water on it, that's really bad news.
Moist air will do it.
Moist air would probably do it as well. Yeah, so we're going to keep it in there packed up nicely until I'm ready to make myself an argon atmosphere chamber, like a baggie or something like that. Cut it and then cover it with epoxy, and then we'll have our sample. By the way, it's very hard to find any lithium nowadays in the pure form. There's only one seller on eBay out in Ukraine that sells it, and they don't sell the powdered form. That is, that will almost explode. When it's powdered like that, and you just shove some oxygen in, it'll be like. Pfft.
Oh yeah, powder metallurgy is a mess, especially with reactive metals.
You don't want to take your lithium batteries apart.
I've even heard of one factory one factory where I worked. They were, I knew the guys who worked there. They were processing tungsten, and they figured, this is not reactive enough to explode like that. And if it did get up in the air, it wouldn't stay up there long because it's dense. But they were very mistaken. Even just tungsten, if you get it powdered in air, distributed enough, that'll combust. That'll explode. In fact, you got to be very careful with powdered metals.
Yeah, we got powdered aluminum. We got powdered aluminum mixed with iron powder in epoxy. I got a bunch of that.
Yeah, you should keep that in a flammables cabinet.
No, this is not flammable at all.
Well, it's in a disc, but the powders themselves you should keep in a flammables cabinet.
Aluminum powder has a nice oxide on it, and it protects itself.
That depends on the supplier. There's some good suppliers who pre-process it and oxidize the surface so it's safer to use. Other suppliers do not do that. And
I think it's already been oxidized because oxygen already went into the bag. It's definitely oxidized.
I worked at Solvus Global, and our whole thing was aluminum powder. So I know this.
You had the real stuff without the oxide layer on?
Yeah, we were the ones who put the oxide layer on it, in fact.
Okay.
For our application.
Well, maybe if you can get me a sample of that stuff before the oxide layer is on, and then we can make our argon chamber and play with that as well, because I don't think I have anything here without.
Well, it will form oxides and hydroxides relatively quickly.
I know that.
What you're really doing when you're oxidizing the aluminum surface is you're converting the aluminum hydroxide, which is more reactive, into aluminum oxide by heating the particle, and that passivates the surface.
Right, but I want to run one sample of aluminum that's not passivated already. I want to just get it pure aluminum powder. And
it's too reactive for that. It will have aluminum hydroxide on its surface.
Can't we put so aluminum hydroxide?
Hey, Mark, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Mark, before you blow yourself up, make sure you run the test on my samples. All right?
Oh yeah, we're gonna run the test on your samples. We got a lot of samples to run over there. Let me just give you an idea. So this is our setup, and that's a box of all the samples we have. And this thing alone has got like 40 of them in there. We're gonna definitely run your sample. I'm gonna run up to Michael Perone's place up in Massachusetts, and we're gonna stick it under the scanning electron microscope and check it out that way as well.
Hey, call me.
Time. It's backlogged right now, but we'll get it done.
Actually, I could call you, but I'm not going to be sitting here at the lab while I do it. The problem is that if I were to touch this or something like that, it will create vibrations in the thing, and so we're measuring a scale measurement. So what we try to do is start it at night, have it run 4 times, come back in the morning and collect the data. And
I know all about disturbances because I told you I was playing with some quantum electrodynamics for geology in my lab during COVID. and there
Nice.
was nobody around, and I had to keep. It was everything was sealed and quiet, and it was still a mess to sort out the noise.
Oh
Right.
yeah. What was that project all about? If you can talk about it.
No, that was there was a I didn't believe the story, but it was Luc Montagnier that did the work with basically had to do with imprinting viral DNA onto water molecules and then taking that vibration and transferring it over wire and rebuilding the molecules at another location. Um, his experiments, and this guy has won a Nobel Prize in medicine, and he did the work with tried to copy the work that Benaviste did, and so I got to looking at I watched the video that was produced, and I saw the tests. The debunkers came out there and said, "Oh, this doesn't work," and they were shamed, so to speak, because they couldn't get it to work on TV. Um, and then spent some time reading about all the science, and actually duplicated Montagnier's laboratory equipment in my lab at the New Mexico Military Institute downstairs in the basement. And I said, okay, fine. If you can get a signature from viruses stirring around, and I'm stirring it around in water, why can't you get a signal with various elements and minerals? So I decided to do those exact same experiments, following the stuff that they did with viruses, except I was doing it with minerals. It worked. I would have to say, basically, I have peaks that I ran. I've got peaks that show up, and the peaks that show up are above and beyond what is there, because I ran plain water, I ran air, did all the things you were supposed to do in science to make sure that you had something to relate it to. And then when I ran the different elements and ran the different minerals, they all came out with peaks that were not at baseline. They were way above, and it worked. I would have to say that it probably worked 75% of the time, and the other 25% was probably error. But what happens when you're working with this stuff, and you guys know this, when you're working with quantum stuff, just the idea of thinking about the experiment can screw the experiment up. And I kid you not, it's that sensitive. And I've got a very open mind, and I played with this a lot, and it works. In fact, it's actually posted out there. I posted my scientific data of all the weird places to post it. I stuck it out on Facebook, and people are going, "What the heck is it?" It's very pretty little diagrams. But guys, you can go look it up. I'll send it to you if you want. You can see the diagrams and the nice little colored graphs that I did on it. Or actually, I didn't do the graphs. It was the machine that did the graphs. So it's pretty cool. It works. So
Awesome. I'd love to read up on it.
Oh, absolutely. I'll send you the information. It's kind of a cool little thing to play with. I haven't run my pieces of Roswell metal on it yet. It would be kind of cool to see what would happen with that as well.
That would be very cool. We could do that test here too soon. Well, we have an RF cavity for a slightly different experiment, but we could stick samples in and record response functions and stuff.
Do it all. Test the hell out of it, guys.
Sure.
We will.
We'll report all the results. If it flies when we hit it with the EPR, and floats and levitates, you'll be the first to know. So.
Well, yeah, I should be getting to bed anyways.
Yeah. Real hopeful.
My bedtime here.
I'm getting ready to go to bed too, man. Thank you for your hard work and going out to the site. How many times did you actually have to go out to that site behind you before you
Hey, you know what? I went out there. I did all the research on it to get the exact location, and I spent the first day that I went out there, and that was more than 10 years. That was like 12 years ago. I found nothing, and that was sweeping a metal detector for about 6 or 8 hours. Didn't find anything the first day. Went out there the second day, and right at the very end of like 6 hours of swinging the metal detector, in that white area behind me, I found one piece in an anthill. And that was it. I'm going, oh my gosh. Then I was looking around, hoping that the black helicopters were not going to come zooming over, and I'm going, oh, what the heck? And I after that, it's just been a kind of a labor of love, because sometimes I'll go out there and find nothing, and other times I'll go out and find material. There's a documentary coming out. It's a YouTube documentary that's going to come out, I think, in August, along with Chuck Sokowski and myself. That where we don't have very many times where we have actually found debris that's been captured in on film, but we've got it, and this is going to be pretty cool. Also out there, we had weird stuff going on, Jeremy. We had camera battery failure, which was weird. The batteries were charged, but the batteries died about 5 minutes into an interview, and it was actually 2 cameras, if I remember correctly. They died simultaneously. We had the batteries were replaced, and we went for a walk, and the audio cut out for no reason. And then we took Chuck's tri-field meter, and we were walking around with it. And the tri-field meter was...
I was just going to ask you, did you bring a tri-field meter out there or a Geiger counter?
Geiger counter. I've scanned the daylights out of that place with a Geiger counter. And I've got Geiger counters that can find a radioactive gnat at 100 yards, and there's nothing out there. However, Chuck's...
Yeah, it's not active on the Geiger, but I got a piece of uranium that is.
Nice.
So Chuck's tri-field meter would spike, and then it would go back down, and it would hold at about maybe 1s or 2s on a scale of 1 to 100. So it would spike up, and that was, I've never had that happen out there before, but the tri-field meter was doing weird stuff. And his drone, he had to move it away from the location where the cameras were dropping out in order to get his drone to even launch. It would not launch and would not fly in the same place that the batteries died. So I've never had that happen out there before, but it was weird. But what was unique is that this was about maybe 3 or 4 days after it had rained, so that the ground was down about 3 inches deep, was slightly moist. And it was causing the metal detectors to act up, and it was doing all kinds of crazy stuff out there. So there's some weird things that are happening on occasion out at the debris field. And who knows, there may be some big pieces of that crap buried that's still giving off some kind of anomalous signals or something. I have no idea. It's just real. Never had it happen. I'm an open-minded scientist, but that was the weirdest crap that I've ever had happen. Just to let you know.
Well, so people asking questions, we'll do our best to stream testing. The SEM is at a local university, so that depends on their policies and things.
We wanted to stream the opening to show the chain of custody here, and then have Frank on so that we could explain the chain of custody to everybody, so they understood that this, came from the actual crash site by qualified, competent researchers and archaeologists.
I hope so. If you look at the picture, the area that is directly, if you're looking at the screen, same screen I'm looking at, look like to the left, about halfway between my shoulder and where it goes out, right in that area where all the dead stuff is. That's where it was. Get my fingers going the right way here, this direction. Here we go. Up that way. Right back, just above my hand, right back here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's where the material was found. That's where Chuck and I found, like I said, we probably found a dozen pieces in the last 2 months out there.
Yeah. And once again, Chuck is UFO Nut in the audience. Oh, Michael, are you getting out of here? I'm about to close down the stream, I think, and open it up to the audience. We can get Chuck. We got to get Chuck to jump on. I'm going to post the StreamYard link in. We'll keep it going for a little bit longer if Chuck wants to jump on, and because got some people in the audience who are.
Hey, Chuck, you going to join us? I hope so.
He's
This
gonna
is
have
If you want Avi
gotta
on
copy
Jeremy,
this link. Yeah.
you've got to plan that further in advance. Those Harvard professors, they keep their schedule very busy.
Yeah, they're very busy guys. So maybe we'll try to get Avi on at some point. I got to go and watch his interview that he did yesterday with Brian Keaton, because that looks interesting. And it just popped up on my feed like a half hour before this was scheduled to start, so I didn't have time to really check it out. I'll probably go watch that tonight after this.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for joining us and your, as usual, your excellent scientific commentary and material science and knowledge. It's always...
Hey, Michael, you're way too smart for me, man.
Oh no,
it's good.
No,
We like to go like keep it back down to level for the casual observers, and also bring it down to like real deep science so people can learn some stuff and hopefully get some search terms if they haven't heard before and aren't familiar with stuff.
Oh,
give them
that's
some
cool.
research.
we're all just trying to help here. And
Yep.
thank you for finding those samples and sending them to us.
For science, yes.
Yeah. All right. Good night.
Okay. Now we got some people here.
We got some people. I'm going to shut this down if the live stream. So if you guys want to jump on.
Live long and prosper, everyone. If you want to jump on the live stream, we're going to have an after party.
Thank you so much, Kate, for the $10 super chat. That's awesome.
That's a cup of coffee and a donut.
Coffee and a donut. That's great. Thank you so much. Every little bit helps, and that's awesome. All right, so this community is great. Thank you guys, everyone, for watching. Everyone who's supported this channel and helped us get this far. Frank, you have you don't have a website or a book or anything?
No,
like that?
no books. But you can email me fkimbler@gmail.com. I'll answer anybody that wants to email me. That's fine.
That's it. Go check my sources and check up on them, man. I think these guys are legit, and this piece looks legit. We're gonna do our best to investigate it and report back on this, and hopefully, if anyone out there has some pieces that their grandfather got from the crash site with the Army 70 years ago, and they've been holding on to it and looking for someone to check it out. They'll be watching the stream, and we'll be getting some more packages in the mail over at Falcon Space Labs there. Thank you guys so much. Awesome show tonight. And no one's smarter than all of us together, right?
That's right. Frank, are you associated with the Roswell Museum?
Actually, they are tremendously good friends of mine, and they funded the very first research that I ever did. And I give talks during the UFO festival over there. They are a great group of people. I even have, they've dedicated an entire corner of that museum to specimens and artifacts that I found out there, plastic, some really weird iron material that really needs some more investigation done on it, and the buttons in the aluminum with some data that they posted up there. And I tried to make it so that people could read it and understand it, but they dedicated a whole corner for me, which I'm really proud of for that. So they're good people, and they're good friends of mine.
Maybe we can send them some of the data we get out of this, and they can stick it up on the wall too.
Oh, they would love that. Absolutely love it.
Sweet.
Absolutely. That's why we get Michael on the show, so we can. I just dumb it down.
Michael knows the shit. I actually went on a hike with Michael right up here in Harriman State Park, and he was pointing out there was some graphite inclusion in the rocks. We went and shipped some of it out, and it was pyrolytic graphite. It would fly inside of a magnetic field.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like naturally occurring pyrolytic graphite.
It's good on Michael to be able to see that and identify it, and
he identified it as a kid when he was there. And it's really cool. I have a whole box of the stuff now. We took a whole bunch of samples back with us. And the shit, like, you get little small flakes of it, it'll fly up in a magnetic field strong enough.
All right. Well, I'm going to end this
Strongly
right here. I think we're going to shut it down. That's super cool. Michael is obviously the smartest guy, one of the smartest guys we've ever had on the channel. He's the real deal, totally. Yeah, he talks to Sarfati and all those guys. I'm gonna try and get Russell Targ back on the show. We got to get Chuck Zukowski on just as an individual interview to talk about all his research over the years. The guy is not a noob. He's been doing this a lot longer than most of us, certainly me. So would love to get him on another time where he's more prepared and not just walking into a mess on guns blazing. So yeah, definitely thank you all for watching, and some heavy hitters out there in the audience too, as well as getting guys on the stream like Frank Kimbler here. So thank you, Frank, and looking forward to giving you some analysis and results back on this piece. And thank you everyone for watching. Great stream.
Hey, and thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely, man. That's what we do here. We get those guys that the mainstream networks won't touch, So, and sometimes there's a reason for that.
Yeah, Chuck Zukowski and myself have been kind of complaining about that, but we'll get some people to pay attention to us.
Absolutely, it's like you get these false investigators, and they're getting on Fox News so that they can make fools out of them and be like, "This is what UFO people are, and this is what they're like." And you get real investigators who are like, working with.
I don't mind being a fool made of as long as I'm doing science the right way, which is why I wanted to contact you.
That's why they'll never put you on, though. That's
I had a producer tell me during a documentary, he said, "Frank, good science does not make good TV," and that was what I got. I'm going, oh, great.
It's true, man. So we're not here for the entertainment. We're here for the science, and that's why everyone here is awesome. Thank you all for watching. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.